Making is presented by the Coalyard Cafe in Ithaca, New York.
Walking into a room of my art is like a cotton candy wonderland of lights and darks and pinks and a little bit of blue, and it's floating text. It's very soft, so it's cotton fabric, often either stuffed or backed with muslin, which is very similar to like a stuffed animal or maybe a quilt. And it's usually suspended from the ceiling, off the wall, in space so that you can walk around it or under it, like sentences in the air. I'm Anna Warfield, and I am a soft sculptor and a poet. The work is pretty intentionally confrontational because I was socialized in a way, like I think a lot of us are, a lot of femme bodies are socialized to feel that you need to be sort of this like soft, placid, non-confrontational being in space, and that speaking up for yourself makes you more of a problem. I wanted to kind of take that idea head on and use the associations with like light, soft colors like pinks and soft baby blues and upend it, use it as like an entry point for people to be confronted, to have like their worldview challenged. The poems that I write, I knew as I was writing them and have been writing them that they were going to be tough to digest. I had some pretty tough things that I wanted to like be able to process, even if just for myself, but then not wanting it to be so literal when I'm putting it into the world. So using the like soft pink as an entry point for the surprise confrontation that's about to happen. And they go deeper, and it's something that they weren't quite expecting, and it's a bit more aggressive. I think the language in the poems, it's evolved over time, but usually there's like a relationship to the body. I've been forced to hyperfixate on my own body. I've been forced to like think about it all the time and the way it's presented and the way it's being received and what I've done with my body in space. And that level of like magnified, intense focus on that, I want other people to kind of feel as well. Referencing like oral fixation and talking about the mouth. Making people very aware, viscerally aware of their own bodies is a part of it. And then also like, what does a body do? And then paralleling that to like other larger ideas. And for talking about being softer, like that can mean so many different things. And interest in specific words too, and how they've been like morphed, utilized, sexualized over time. And the difference between me saying certain words versus a man saying certain words has always been of interest to me. So for a while I was interested in finding categories and understanding myself and my position in the world based on the categories that were offered and socialized to understand. And then at the same time I was like fighting this like not loving being called a feminist and not loving getting the thread picked up, oh, this is what it means to be a woman. A woman must work with fibers, but also knowing that I'm elevating that language of making, which is women's work, working with fabric, as a good thing. Elevating that, but then also having to like grapple with, like, I don't think that that is the exact perfect thing to define me and who I am, and that this is now becoming how people see and interpret me, which ultimately brought me to wanting to confuse people with the work and not give definitive answers and make it harder and harder for people to understand what it is that I'm saying, working in a space that is accessible, inviting, visually compelling, but then also a little bit aggravating. There's this like sort of gendered tension within fiber arts and fabric pieces where many people seem to think that although we're in like a gallery or a museum setting, we're looking at fabric so we can touch it, right? So we're talking about sexuality, gender identity, and bodies, often from the perspective of like a femme individual. The idea of consent like pretty organically comes up, and violation. And many of my pieces have been like handled pretty aggressively, pretty violently in museum and gallery contexts. And it's like, it's just things playing out kind of grossly and perfectly the way that they should be to like make the points that I'm trying to make. In 2025, I was invited to be the Rockwell Museum's Antigravity Artist, which is a specific project that the Rockwell Museum has with a few different parts. One part is I am invited to make a site-specific installation that will be on view at the Rockwell Museum for an entire year, so throughout 2025 and then a little bit into 2026. That piece is site-specific, so I'm thinking about their architecture, the place, how people will see it from various angles, and making the work in response to that. Part two is I bring the artwork to the Rockwell for a week where they install the work. I give them instructions and kind of check in with them, but they handle the install. While that installation is taking place, they have a partnership with the Corning Museum of Glass, which is very close by to them, and I get to go over and have a residency for a week with the Corning Museum of Glass. So what that looks like is, on top of creating this work for the Rockwell, I spent 6 months kind of in prep talking to professional gaffers at the Corning Museum of Glass, preparing for this week that we would work really intensely to see what my art would look like in glass. We can take any direction we want. It can be trying to replicate my work in glass, or it can be a new direction. But I get to work with professionals in the glass-making sphere to create objects in glass, and they're really incredible. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime experience for sure. In my case, I wouldn't have touched glass in this way if I hadn't been invited to and had this opportunity. And when I have people interacting with or just viewing my work, I am mostly interested in them coming away like confused, or like possibly with more questions than answers, very on purpose, because if you are sitting with art over a period of time, that means it's resonated or caused you to think differently about the world. And I think that's really powerful. Not just the 10 seconds you spend, if you're lucky, if I'm lucky, in front of the piece, but that it lingers with you for longer. That's what I'm hoping for.
Making is made possible with support from the Coalyard Cafe in Ithaca, New York, from Beer Properties, and from viewers like you.